Good, dude. Good. We were just on this Zoom call learning about this new software, and there was a lady on there with her camera on, and she looked like a witch, like a straight up witch. Like it was like kind of freaky. So I texted my buddy. I was like, "Dude, this lady looks like a witch." Come to find out, that's his mom who's going to be getting into solar cells with us. And I was like, "Oh crap, dude!"
Oh no! How'd he say? What'd he do?
He just laughed about it. He's a fun guy. Yeah, dude, cracked me up, man. Cracked me up.
Have you ever made a joke to a homeowner and it just not land like at all?
Oh, dude, so many times. So many times. And then you just sit there awkwardly like, all right, so as far as the install goes,
Yeah.
that's what you got to do.
Dude, I see you with the headset too. It looks good, man.
Thanks, man. Just doing a ton of virtual stuff. So I went all nerdy with it. Got the headset going.
Dude, it's good to see you, man. You got that dad energy coming out of you, bro. Oh my God.
Dude, that's exactly what it feels like. Yeah.
Dude, yeah. When are you expecting, or when is your wife expecting?
February 1st. So kind of like any time now, you know.
Yeah,
we're kind of in that window. So we're on baby watch. She woke me up in the middle of the night. She's like, I'm having a feeling. I'm like looking around, like, dang, dude, it's freaking time. Ended up being nothing. So got my hopes up for no reason.
Super Bowl, it's coming, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm excited. How's things going with combat though?
Dude, it's going great, bro. We got a sign. That's good.
Yeah, there you go.
Essentially, we're like still figuring out the exact market fit, and so we're like a software agency. But I think what we officially have like nailed down over the past year is that we're like a training development company. So hey, we'll build the training, we'll do the videos, we'll do the flashcards, quizzes, manuals, written material, and then we'll host it on our platform.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we're at.
I mean, dude, I like the angle that you guys are taking with it, where reps actually like upload videos of themselves. That I feel like that's so key, dude, because there's so many software training companies out there that they cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and it's just one shoe fits all. Like, hey, here you go. Like, this isn't even related to your product. Have fun, you know?
Yeah,
so
dude.
It's cool to see you guys taking a more customized approach.
Thanks, bro. We're even planning on like, down the line adding like a Loom ability, so like people could actually record their screens and show like send it to a manager, so that like you could actually train people.
Yeah.
Not just like, hey, watch, because I think so many times you fall into that route of like, hey, watch this, you read this, and it's like, how are you really making sure that the person is actually reading it or actually watching it? Just I'm gonna get started. But and officially, I want to say thank you so much, Trever, for hopping on. This is the first episode of the Combat Sales Podcast. Now, mind you, we're really this is where I'm figuring it out too, so I don't want you to feel any pressure or anything. Like, I just have some written questions, but a couple like ideas that we're throwing around when we're doing this podcast is just a podcast for people that have been in management, right? And so I feel like a lot of the content in the industry is just saying, hey, if you're a sales rep, this is how you sell more. And then there's, hey, are you a solar owner, right? Or are you a owner of a home, like a door-to-door company? And there's like really the backbone of the industry is management. The guys that are out recruiting, out training, out leading teams, doing the morning meetings. And so this content really was just, we're wanting to cater it to our audience, which is like managers, but also, we're going to go over things of like, that a new sales rep really could adopt. And I want to ask you about your personal journey. So I have like probably like 10, 15 questions. And I was thinking probably 30, 35 minutes, and just kind of want to pick your brain, man.
Cool, dude. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for thinking of me. It'll be fun. Yeah,
absolutely. So first and foremost, if you could kind of tell me a little bit about, your experience with management, right? So, and I know it's a broad question, but really, like, what is the most amount of people that you've managed in the door-to-door setting? And what are you currently selling now? Where are you selling? And those don't all have to be combined, but more so, we're trying to do something that almost like a prerequisite for being on the podcast is that you've managed, more than 10 people at one time. So can you tell me a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, man, of course. So I mean, I've been in the door-to-door direct-to-consumer sales industry for, man, this is my eighth or ninth year. You lose count after a while, you know. It's like time freaking flies by. But yes, I've been in the game for a while. I started off my first summer as an intern. I was a college student, didn't know what I wanted to do. Thought about going to law school, and then realized I hated school. So why am I going to do that? I shipped out with a group of guys over to Davenport, Iowa. Sold out there as a rookie. Didn't know what I was doing. Ended up dropping like 200 satellite TV accounts. Had a really good summer. Was the top intern rep for the year. Dude, at that point I was hooked. I was like, you're not getting me away from this. I get to go live wherever I want in the country and just knock on people's doors and make a really good income. Yeah, man, I'm sold, you know?
Yeah.
After that, I went into management, started recruiting, building teams. Over the years, I've led teams in Nebraska, Iowa, Indiana, Texas, California, you know, really kind of all over the place, especially when you account for all the places we went to for blitzes and whatnot, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think the biggest our region ever got to, I wasn't directly managing a lot of these reps, but we had different managers in different offices, but we got up to 3 offices with a little over 70 reps total. And that was a fun summer, man. It was hectic though, right? It's like
Yeah.
when you're trying to steer that ship, it's like there's wind pulling in all directions and you just got to try and keep it going straight, you know?
Yeah.
But it's a good time.
Well, and so I guess the question is like, what got you in the mindset that you're like, hey, I did really good. Like, I want to lead other people, right? Because some people are like, hey, I'm a great salesman. I can just keep selling. What made you want to transition into leadership?
Dude, I think a big part of it for me was my first summer coming back from my internship year, right? That's kind of like everybody's first like time where they're dipping their toes into leadership and trying to figure out if that's for them. Me, what got me excited about it is I had such a good experience my first year. I loved it so much. I wanted to bring people along with me and have them experience it too, right? That's kind of where it started for me. After that, I kind of figured out that I loved helping people achieve their goals. And that just kind of became what my mission was. Like, how can I take, you know, this guy who doesn't really have a plan, doesn't really have a path, just knows that he doesn't want to live in his mom's basement forever, and
Yeah.
help him get to a point where he's making a fulfilling income and has a fulfilling life, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so
Well,
that's kind of where it started for me.
and if I remember correctly, you were president of your fraternity, right?
Yeah, it was.
Awesome. Do you feel like your connection to the fraternity, culture, it was just something that you're like, hey, I did really good at this. This is something I want to be a part of. Like, how do you feel like you had kind of that foundation and confidence to go into that role?
Yeah, dude, that's actually a great question. It's not something you think about all the time, but there's definitely a lot of congruencies between the two, right? Shout out to the guy who's the president of my fraternity when I joined the chapter, Stephen Mejia, amazing guy. You know, he told me when I was going into leadership within fraternity, there's a fine line between managing guys in the fraternity as like kind of like a higher up like figure and like still being a bro, right? Still being a friend to them. And it's very similar in this space, right? It's like we're all friends, right? We're out living in the middle of nowhere together. We're gone away from our families and the rest of our friends for, 4 to 6 months, whatever the case may be. That becomes your family, right? You become a very close knit group. And I think the fraternity experience taught me kind of how to find that fine line, right? Like, where's that line between like, hey, I'm your friend, we're gonna have fun, we're gonna do cool stuff, but hey, at the same time, I'm also your boss, right? And we got to toe a line there too.
Wow.
But
Yeah, dude. Well, and even like that, walking that line and kind of having that relationship, like, do you feel like, if not for the fraternity, do you feel like that would have been something that you would have had to like kind of learn on the fly? Or do you feel like, you have a natural inclination to lead, like, or I guess more so what I'm asking is, did you always kind of know that you were going to be in a leadership position regardless of what your job is, right?
yeah, I feel like growing up, I always kind of had that natural inclination for sure, right?
Mhm.
And to be honest, man, it's something I still struggle with to this day, right? I'm always trying to improve, right? I'm always looking at like, hey, where can I get a little bit better? 1% better every day, right? That's the motto. sometimes I'm still a little too soft, right? I still am too much like, hey, dude, this guy's my friend. We're gonna be cool. Like, let's figure it out, you know. Um, and it's a tough balancing act, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say from the beginning, I always kind of had a little bit of that leadership inclination.
Cool. And how would you say you balance that relationship between this is your really good friend and, you know, you have to lead them and hold them accountable and, you know, want them to achieve their goals? Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, yeah, good question, man. For me, coming to the realization that when I'm being hard on somebody, it's not because I don't like them and I'm not their friend. It's actually the opposite, right?
Mhm.
It's listen, man, because I like you, because I want to see you be successful, I'm going to push you harder than anybody else has ever pushed you, right? Oh,
Mhm.
you're tired, you don't want to knock that door, it's raining outside, good, go freaking do it, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't accept the excuses, right? And once I kind of got to that conclusion in my own head, it really helped me kind of push past some of that uneasiness.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because there were just it's weird. You know, I've almost stepped back out of the leadership role of, you know, doing direct like management leadership. And it's weird. There are the guys that you obviously have some of those reps that were like kind of headaches, right? Like called you 10 times or just had negative attitudes. You remember those guys.
Of
And then
course.
you also remember all the guys on the opposite side that you're like, dude, that was just such a good soldier. That dude was in the trenches. Like, when you look back at your, you know, experience in management, um, is there any kind of like experiences that you had with those really good reps that you were like, how can I mimic this? Right. Or like,
Yeah, yeah.
was there
Oh,
any experiences or any tips or tools that you used to try to mimic those guys?
of course, man. Yeah, I mean, anytime you find a rep who's just kind of like that dream rep, so to speak, right? Like calls you maybe when he has a question about like a product, right? Or hey, how do I handle this objection, right? Like I love those calls. The calls we don't like as managers are like, hey, man, I'm having an emotional breakdown because I stubbed my toe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like those are the reps where you're like, oh, it makes you want to pull out your hair a little bit. It's tough, you know. I think when you're recruiting and you're building teams, you're always going to have a mix, right? You're never going to be able to just perfectly mimic that one perfect guy, right? The best you can do is lead from the front, right? Be an example to everybody on how it should look and what a healthy lifestyle and a healthy mindset when it comes to work should look like. That's about the best you're ever going to do, you know.
Yeah. Were there any books that really influenced your leadership style?
21 Laws of Leadership, great book. Another one, it's not really a leadership book, but I believe that leadership is a factor of influence, right?
Mm.
So the greater your sphere of influence, the more your leadership capabilities are. So How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a
Yeah.
classic. Anybody in life should read that book. I don't care what industry you're in. Um, and if you know you follow those principles, you're gonna see that if you're leading somebody or if you're even just trying to be a good friend or a good son or whatever it is, it's gonna go a long way for you.
Dude, exactly. Well, and I feel like in management leadership, you know, you play that role, but also it's so important to feel like you've had that role played for you. So in your experience, who has, you know, helped shape you as a leader and as a manager? Who's
Dude, I've had so many over the years, right? It's hard to like sit back and pinpoint one. I mean, it's part of the reason I'm still with the company that I'm with today, right? It's just amazing leadership. I would say Grant Miser is probably one of those guys. You know, Grant,
RG?
he's
Yes, sir.
dude, he's just um, he's a great guy, right? A heart of gold. He wants the best for you all the time, but he will call you out on your crap if you need it, right?
Yeah.
He's had my back more times than I can count, so he'd probably be
Okay.
the one guy I'd point to.
Awesome. Awesome. And let me just go on to this question. So, for those of people that are just starting off in door-to-door sales, like, what's the most single best advice that you could give someone?
Just do
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Be okay with being uncomfortable. It's gonna suck. You know, like think of it like an MMA fighter when he first learns how to fight, he gets beat up quite a bit, right? Like he's knocked out, he's bloody, he's laying on the floor. That's door to door sales, but instead of it being a physical damage that you're taking, it's all up here, right? And you just
mm,
need to learn how to roll with those punches. And embrace the suck, man. Like there's times where it's gonna suck. Dude, I'll tell you, like, not even really a funny story, like almost a sad story. I remember, I think it was my second, maybe third year. I just was coming off like a slump, you know. In sales, we always have those where you just feel like shit. I suck at my job now, right?
Yeah.
I remember calling my mom, dude. I called home to mommy,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Mom, yeah, dude, it got to be done sometimes, you know." And
Yeah.
I call her because I know she's gonna give me the advice I don't want to hear, right?
Yeah.
I called her. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm thinking about just coming home. Like, I'm gonna pack up the car. I'm gonna be home in a couple of days. She told me if I came home, I wasn't gonna have somewhere to stay. Right? She's like, you
Oh,
do not
wow.
quit. You just keep going after it. You're good at this. You've done it before. And that was kind of the push I needed in that moment. Right?
Yeah.
Fast forward a week later, I had one of my best weeks of the summer. Right?
Dude, that's awesome.
You just got to push through the suck, man.
Yeah, dude. And really even just highlighting that point, like you need people that are willing to commit to hold you accountable to that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because if you
100%.
called your mom and you're like, Mom, I can't do this, and she goes, Yeah, it's too hard to come home. I mean, you know, you would have folded like a chair, right?
Who knows what I would be doing right now? Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have. I would have totally folded. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, and it's funny because, you know, I actually called my mom once or twice over the summer too, because, you know, at the beginning when I would call my dad, I'd be like, dude, Dad, this sucks. He goes, I know, right? I was like, actually, you know, I'll call Mom. So it's interesting now because, you know, I know that, you know, you have a wife, you know, you have a beautiful baby on the way. You know, I'm engaged at this point, and really, it's almost like the unspoken battle, just because a lot of reps in the industry are, you know, relatively young, that you also, when you're signing up to lead and you're signing up to be a manager in the door-to-door industry, you're also signing up your spouse as well. And they're signing up to be your partner
Yes.
to support you through this. And so, you know, what impact has your wife played on, you know, your development as a manager and as a leader?
Yeah, dude. Good question. I got really lucky, right? So I found a very supportive girl at a young age. Her first year of college, my second year, we're just like, yep, this is working. We're going to stick with it, right?
Yeah.
So I had a good amount of time with her before I went into the industry. You are absolutely right, though. This industry, it'll play a toll on your relationships because you're gone so much. You're working so much. And the way I see it is there's a time in your life to do that, right? When you're young, that's when you need to grind, right? When you need to take the risks. Don't wait until you're 50, 60 years old. You got 4 kids and a mortgage that you can barely pay, right?
Yeah.
That's not when you take those risks. Do it when you're young. For me, it made a huge difference because it gave me a deeper understanding of my why, right?
Mm,
Understanding why you're out there and doing it is the most important thing. If you're going into leadership, if you're going into just straight up sales, if you're waking up in the morning and you have no reason to grind, you're not going to grind nearly as hard, right?
yeah.
For me, I knew I was like, dude, I want to have a family. I want to be a dad one day. I want to provide for my wife. I want her to have the option of if she works or doesn't work, not because of a financial necessity, but just because, you know, maybe she's bored and she wants to get a job, right? But I
Yeah.
want her to have the choice.
That's awesome.
And so it gave me a really strong why.
Well, dude, and you know, it's interesting because I'm sure in your experience as a manager, you know, you've probably seen some reps that were in relationships that have taken them off the doors, right? Like
Yes.
I've had a couple reps that have called me and be like, dude, I'm fighting with the girlfriend again. I got to go back. And it's like, dude, you gotta compartmentalize and keep them both at the nucleus of your why, but also like you have to compartmentalize, you know, your roles and responsibilities. So that's great, man. That's great. Um, let's jump back into reps real quick. So I guess a question is like, do you have any reps that you just had create like, what was one thing that when you're on the doors with your reps, like you just really realized resonated with them when they were learning, right? So because I actually hold you as one of the best people in the industry that I've worked with that is trained, right? Like coming in with my mindset as a trainer, like you were always incredible at training. So what's a piece of advice for the manager that's saying, hey, I'm wanting to learn how to like train my reps better so that they retain it better or they learn easier? Is there any advice that you can give on that?
Yeah, man. It's tough. Training is one of those things where it's so unique to every single individual you work with, right? And that's what makes it challenging. I'll tell you, over the years, I've had some reps that shadowing and just listening to me do it was all they needed. And then they just picked it up and they went with it and they ran with it, right? Those are going to be more your golden reps that we were talking about earlier, right? Like they just hear it a couple times and they're good. Then you have a few reps that they really need you to spend time with them, listening to them and just taking a step back and just letting them fumble through it, let them get all the way to the end, even though in the back of your head, you're like, oh, dude, like that was a sell. You totally screwed that up, right?
Yeah.
You got to let them fail. And then after, just kind of point it out for them. And then you have some reps that they're very much like, dude, I'm a visual learner, right? Like I need scripts written out. I need books to read, right? And so I think one of the tricks with training is to just be able to identify what each rep needs and then try and cater to that as much as physically possible. And listen to them, right? They're going to tell you what they need, right? Sometimes we try and put a one shoe fits all type of method at it, and then that just isn't going to work, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great advice just in general. Cause I mean, so many people, you know, if you just hand them a manual or you just hand them a video, and then you just say learn, it's like, no, you have to interact. You have to understand who you're trying to train because everybody learns different, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so now from my understanding, right, you're at Aveyo. How's that going?
It's going good, man. It's going good. It's been a really fun last 12 months. We went from just being a sales dealership where we were selling systems for all these other companies out there. We kind of got fed up with that. We're like, listen, man, nobody's going to take care of our customers the way we want them to be taken care of. I don't care what installer you're with, you're going to find an issue with it. We just decided, screw it, we're going to take it all in-house. We're going to start doing our own installs. In the last 12 months have been a lot of fun building that up and getting that beast off the ground, you know. I think now we're doing our own installs in 18 states nationwide, and then we have some really high quality partners in the other states.
Oh, that's awesome. And if you were talking to the rookie that's watching, you know, or somebody that's watching, or if they have a team and they're looking at where to go, you know, why should they come to you in your region, your team, or Aveyo in general, right? Like, everybody loves the culture of their company. Everybody, you know, loves the people they're working with. But what about it is where, because each company is a vehicle for, you know, your income, right? Why Aveyo? Why is Aveyo your vehicle?
Yeah. The first thing, I mean, I'll kind of take a step back and I can just tell you why I chose it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably, you know, for anybody who's listening to this, take it with a grain of salt. Think about what your why is. Think about what you want in life and find something that fits that niche, right? First thing I'll say is that I don't care what company you're with. If you're in direct to consumer sales and you work your ass off, you're going to be successful, right? Some companies are better than others, 100%. But you'll be successful no matter what, as long as you work really hard, right? The reason I stuck with Aveyo is because of what we kind of talked about earlier, man. I love the leadership here, right? I think they really do have the rep's best interest at heart. Good guys, never had any trust issues with them. And I know I'm going to get paid, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies in the solar industry going out of business right now. I'm not worried about that with Aveyo. So there's that bit of security there on that side of things. I also like, I mean, because we're in solar sales, right? For, you know, every product is a little bit different. In solar sales, one of the most important aspects is the financiers. Who's paying for the damn thing, right?
Yeah.
Obviously the customer, but unless they're going to take $50,000 out of their pocket, they need a bank to help them out, right?
Yeah.
What I like about our product offering is we have a variety of different financiers that we can use. Some are better than others, right? They all have different credit requirements. They have different warranties that are attached to them. And I like that I'm not shoeholed into one specific financer. I have 7 or 8 different financiers that I can use, multiple lease options. I just had a guy the other day. He DQ'd with one of our main financing partners. I was like, okay, well, let's see what we can do over here. Got him qualified for a 14 kilowatt system at a 4.0 PPW here in California.
That's
right?
huge.
I would have walked away from that job otherwise, you know?
Well,
so I like having that flexibility.
Well, what's huge too is realizing that, hey, there are some solar companies that may only have 1 or 2 options, right?
Yeah.
And really understanding is like, so from what I'm hearing, what you're saying is, you know, you love the options that you have, right? Of financing or states, right? Location, like you have a lot of different options, right?
Yeah.
2, you know, you're getting paid, right? So that's something that I think just encompassing its trust, right? You trust the organization, you trust the people there, and you have your options. Would that be fair to say those are
Yeah.
the three?
What
Yeah.
100%. And like, dude, I'll give you kind of an example. So this last year I was like, listen, I love the door-to-door side of things. I've been doing it for years, but as you get a little older and you don't want to travel as much, right? You want to be a little bit more sedentary, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And I called my VP, Grant, right?
Yeah.
I go, Grant, I want to build a virtual program. I want to do everything over the computer. I want to make it happen. He goes, yeah, I love that. I'll support it. Let's make it happen. 2 weeks later, I got a call. He's like, hey, I hired a guy. He's bringing over an entire software suite for you, unlimited data. He totally took it and ran with it, right? He's like, dude, that's what you want to do? Let's freaking support it. Let's make it happen. And now, it's taken off. It's blowing up. And so it's like, it's those little things that really kind of take it to the next level for me. And it's why I stayed.
Dude, that's awesome, bro. That's awesome. And that's great that your initiative was able to turn into what you're doing now, So that's you. Okay, I got 2 more questions. What is, and this goes back to reps, what's one of the funniest stories that you've dealt with on the doors? Either you knocking or one of your reps knocking?
Funny stories on the doors. I'm trying to think of appropriate ones.
It could be inappropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from one of my reps, one of the funniest stories was this guy was knocking a door in Omaha, Nebraska. Omaha gave us a lot of funny stories. Like I got one for myself in Omaha. It's a wild place. It's funny to think my family's from Omaha originally. It actually makes a lot of sense when you get to know my family. But this guy knocked on a door. He hears some rumbling inside. He's like, what's going on, right? Guy comes out. He's just grunting, the customer on the way to the door. Opens the dirty screen door. You can't see through it. The moment he opens it, the guy's standing there completely buck naked and covered in dirt from head to toe.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, my buddy, his name's Kevin. Great guy. He's got an Amazon business now. He lives in Philly. I'll never forget the look on his face when he described to me this story of this just dude with a full beard, covered in dirt, buck naked, going, what? Kevin's like, oh, you're good,
getting back
dude.
from work or what?
Dude, I don't know what was going on with this guy. He just seemed to be, that's how he lived his life, But it just goes to show you never know who's going to be on the other side of that door, right? Like you knock it and it could be a freaking millionaire that comes wearing a nice suit, right? Or it could be some crazy old guy buck naked, with one sock on. Like, who knows?
Oh God, that man had probably so much wisdom somewhere.
So much too bad Kevin was too freaked out to.
What did he do? Did he run?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he just ran away from there.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many stories of going on the doors and just having crazy people answering. So this falls right into it.
Dude, yeah, 100%. I can tell you one of my favorite stories from me knocking personally. Again, I was in some small town in Nebraska, right? At this point, I'm selling satellite TV. I'm pitching these people on a new satellite TV system. This group of girls was all sitting on the front porch, mom and 2 daughters, right? I'm pitching them. I'm standing in their front yard, and their black lab runs up to me. I'm like, oh, cool. I love dogs. Like, whatever, Reach down, pet the dog. In sales, we're really paying attention to the people we're talking about. I'm not really looking at my environment as much. I just know the dog's standing by my feet. Looking at their face, I see this weird expression. I'm like, I don't know. Is there something on my face? Like, what the hell's going on, right? 2 seconds later, I get this really warm sensation on my toes. So I look down, this dog, I kid you not, with perfect precision in his aim, was peeing right into my shoe. Like perfectly, like when your shoe kind of sticks out a little bit from the ankle, right in there, dude. I just look down, I'm go, what the heck, right? I move my foot away, look up at them, and they're just stonewall looking at me like they don't know what to say. So of course, being a salesman, I try and turn that back on them. And I'm like, hey, your dog did pee on me, so you got to let me get you a new TV system, right? Instead, no, I ended up leaving my shoes on their grass because it was soaked in pee. And I just walked to my car, put on some slides, went to Walmart, got a new pair of shoes, went back out.
Back on the doors.
It had to be done, man. Had a goal to hit,
Exactly, dude. That's exactly. And that's the tenacity that you have to have as a manager, as a leader. Love that, bro. Love that. Well, and my last question for you, where do you see the door-to-door industry going?
Ooh, that's a good question.
There's AI over here. There's softwares, coming out the wazoo. There's all this stuff. Do you see the door-to-door industry changing over the next 5-10 years?
Of course, man. I feel like everything's going to change, right? I mean, the door-to-door industry has changed so much in the last 8 years I've been doing this, right? I think the one thing that salesmen, face-to-face salesmen, have on their side is that personal connection, right? Being able to make somebody laugh, right? Being able to form a real human relationship with them. That's something I don't think AI is ever going to be able to do at the same level as we can, right?
Yeah.
Think about it, man. You get a automated text. Do you think it's from a robot? Are you even going to give it a second thought? Are you going to respond?
Yeah.
No way, right? Even if you have somebody call you who's like a virtual assistant from the Philippines, right? I'm probably hanging up on that pretty quick. I'm just not going to give it the time of the day. In door to door, though, we're in a unique position to really touch people's lives, right? Make their day, right? Give them something to talk about for the next week, 2 weeks, right? And I think that's going to be our strength. So I don't see door to door ever going anywhere. Will the products change? Yeah, right. They always will. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to stay more or less fairly consistent, right? As long as we can keep bringing that personal connection, we're going to be around.
Yeah, and in the age of people just gravitating towards computers, and I mean we're even doing this on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
That interpersonal connection, that face to face, that in person energy, always going to be super important. So
important, yeah.
And Trever, I appreciate you, man. We're at our time limit. Thank you so much for hopping on the call. I am going to review it, post it. I'll send you clips so you can kind of use it to your socials or anything like that as well. Last thing, if you were to say nominate someone that you think is an impactful, manager in the door-to-door industry that has managed more than 10 people, who would you nominate?
When, dude?
Pat Wynn?
Pat Wynn. He's a great guy. He started off as my nemesis a little bit when I first got into it. We were about the same age, and we were kind of going head to head. We've become good friends, and yeah, he's a great manager. You'd get a lot out of him.
Awesome. Great. Well, hey, Trever, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for hopping on, and then we'll hop on a call. Go from there.
Sounds
All right,
good, brother.
see you, buddy.
See ya.